ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Fun Show here at Big TV. You'll notice that the table has a large gap here where Susan Harrington normally is, and I trust she'll be back next week, but she's off at important meetings today.
Yeah, right.
And this is the June 17th edition of the Fun Show.
Yeah.
And Michael Sallin is sitting behind the Kira keyboard. I'm Arch O'Reilly. And we have a few interesting things to say. Some of it is the immediate news, is that Governor Baker has signed a budget.
Big money.
Only a little over 2 weeks late, which is not all that bad, considering he cut $360 million or so out of it. But of course, the House can restore it, so we'll see what that happens. At the same time, they seem to have reached a conclusion on recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
They're going to keep they're going to put the tax at 20%.
20%.
20%, which is a lot higher than the referendum voted, but is reportedly the lowest recreational pot tax in this country.
Well, it'll be cheaper.
Which is a small sample.
You think they'll give the legislators samples?
I have no idea. But what bothered me about Governor Baker's comments on this was he seemed very apologetic about the 20%, and he said, well, we're only looking to cover the cost of administering this program, and if it turns out that the cost isn't that high, we should be prepared to lower this. And then he thought about it, and he said, well, and if it turns out to be more, we should be... What is this objective of trying to break even? If we're going to allow people recreational use of marijuana, shouldn't we make a damn profit on it?
We should.
Shouldn't we?
We should.
Shouldn't we fill the state coffers?
Well, I would say if the people come with a letter from a doctor saying it's...
Well, that's a different thing. We've had that for a while.
Yeah, we had that.
And so you might give them a tax break?
I might, yeah. I might give them. And I'd raise it, I'd go to 25%.
Raise it for the other people?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I've got to live in a state where people are walking around toking and sweating marijuana and stuff, I should at least feel that, I don't know, it's supporting the schools or something.
Are you going to grow a plant in your yard? Or one of those?
I'm allergic to marijuana.
Oh.
I'm not going to be doing any marijuana growing, smoking, eating, any of that stuff. And the fact is, it's theoretically still illegal
in most
to smoke it in public.
Yeah.
But I have very little hope that that's going to affect the amount of it that's smoked in the park behind my house.
What about the police and the federal business?
Well, I mean, that's the fun dynamic, particularly with the SS in Washington. Because the feds still consider this a crime.
Right.
And they keep threatening to, break up Colorado and Washington pot distributors and things, and prosecuting people to the full extent of the law and stuff. And given that what used to be the Department of Justice in this country is now in the hands of the Grand Dragon, Jeff Sessions.
The new Attorney General.
You never know what's going to happen on that thing.
He says he's going to really push these
prosecution of pot people.
He wants to get those people.
He just wants to do that so that people forget that he's a foaming at the mouth, a racist son of a bitch.
You do say that, though.
I mean, he should be in prison already. Lock him up. Lock him up. Now, talking about politics for a minute, I note with interest that the Republicans have found another reason to postpone their Trump Don't Care health bill.
But the president, he said he's poised with his pen.
He's poised with his pen?
A poison pen. Okay.
I'd like to give him a poison pen.
Okay, pen.
But in any case, they're now forestalling voting on their death prescription for America
Yeah.
until John McCain is able to return to the Senate. He curiously had a blood clot removed above his eye.
Yeah, and they had to cut a piece of his skull into his skull out, which they later replaced.
Put back in.
Yeah, well, they siphoned off the.
It's amazing what you can do with Gorilla Glue these days. Anyway, and here's the irony of it. They're waiting for McCain, theoretically, and they have no idea whether McCain will vote for their bill or not.
Yeah,
Which will show how desperate they are. They're holding out for McCain, which can mean only one thing. It means that without McCain, they have no
they
chance
haven't got
of
the
50
numbers,
votes.
right? Yeah.
So they're in big trouble on that.
And-
now, I have a public service announcement for our viewers.
Okay.
Many of you may be aware, and many of you may not be aware, that the National Park Service has a wonderful thing for people who have been around a while, like Mike and I. If you're a senior citizen, you can get a lifetime pass to the national parks for $10.
Right.
And you can go to any national park you want for the rest of your life, and you can take 3 other people with you
Very
at the
good.
time. However, thank you, Donald Trump, on the 1st of August, it becomes $80.
Oh,
So
run now.
if you have any interest, now unfortunately you've got to go to like Lowell or New Bedford. We have, 17 national park sites in Boston? None of them sell the things.
Right.
So you've got to go to a few places which you can find on the national park site. But if you have any interest in national parks, or going to them, or traveling, or taking your grandchildren to them,
This is your chance.
if you can do that before the 1st of August, you can get it for $10 for
$10.
life instead of $80. Now, that's a nice little gentle boost they decided to put
I
in
would say
right?
that is
That's
okay.
an 800% increase.
And then comes that great big piece of ice that broke off in Antarctica.
Yeah, piece of ice.
Yeah.
The size of Delaware.
Yeah, that's a good sized piece of ice.
220,000 square miles of Antarctica.
And it's floating loose.
Floating around. I'm not exactly sure where it is. Is it off the Cape of Good Hope or off Tierra del Fuego? Or
It's
that
still
wasn't
close.
quite clear to me.
It's still close to the glacier that it
Well,
broke.
it's interesting. I have a story here. It came off the Larsen Sea
Yeah,
ice
that's the
shelf.
name of it. It's the Larsen Sea ice floe.
But the story that they wrote doesn't give me any indication of 360 degrees around Antarctica where it was. Is it going to run into Chile, or is it going to run into South Africa, or is it going to run into Australia? I mean,
You would think the Saudis or the Arab countries would get together and
hook a
tow the
line
thing.
on it,
Yeah,
get a couple of heavy-duty oil tankers and
sure.
throw some anchors up there and drag it to a useful
Why
place.
not?
Well, it would be good. It was. I think there was a movie around that once, something like that.
All right.
Anyway, it's a good thing that global warming is a liberal myth. Otherwise, we might be in trouble.
Yes.
With,
But it is a myth,
with
so we don't have to worry.
Delaware-sized pieces of Antarctica floating
No,
around
it
in the
can't
ocean.
be. It's not. Unless it showed up at Washington, D.C., they pulled it ashore there. You don't
They-
think of that.
No. It has been proven that there is no evidence that will convince these people of anything. If God came down from the clouds and told them, hey guys, would you wake up? The world's getting a little warm down here. They'd think it was
What if,
Stephen Colbert's show.
what if some of these folks in these protest groups, what if they got together and they figured out how to put some kind of engines or equipment on this thing, and
start driving it around.
yeah, and brought it and drove it up here to Washington D.C.
I think it would take a pretty big tug to push around
Yeah.
Delaware.
Well, so the
I mean,
Russians.
that's huge.
Yeah, the Russians. Can they get it into the Mediterranean through that narrow?
Through the Straits of Gibraltar, no
yeah.
way.
They might not be able to get it.
No. Obviously not. Obviously not. You can look across the Straits of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
I mean, the Straits of Gibraltar are, I don't know, a good deal narrower than across to the tip of Cape Cod.
Right, you got that woman who was the governor of Alaska.
Oh, you talking Sarah P?
Yeah, she could see Russia from the Soviet.
Yeah, she has good eyesight, and
Yeah,
of
she
course,
could see
because she could see Russia, she knew everything about Russia.
And how to spell
what
it
they
and everything.
thought and, what they were going to do.
They were going to do good.
Everything else.
Well,
here was a sad piece of news.
yeah.
This woman, Miriam Mirzakhani, who was Iranian, is the only woman who ever won the Fields Medal,
Yeah.
which is the highest possible award in mathematics.
Mathematics, right.
Wonderful, genius, mathematician from Iran. She just passed away. She was a professor at Stanford University. 40 years old.
That's the sad.
40 years old.
That's the tragic thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right.
Something's not right in the world when,
No, you're right.
when this kind of thing. Another death on the thing was a guy named George Romero.
Yes. Also,
So tell the folks who George Romero is in the case they don't know.
the Night of the Living Dead.
The
Zombieland.
Yes.
Yep.
The producer and director of
He started.
Night of the Living Dead. He started this plague of zombie-themed
movies.
things, and it doesn't seem to me. It seems to me that half the cable stations on my television set spend half a day each showing nothing but zombies.
Yeah, they do.
Fear the Walking Dead, Walking Dead,
The Walking
thing.
Dead. Yeah, okay.
I mean, they even have things. They even had a movie a couple of years ago. Wasn't it Abraham Lincoln Zombie Hunter? Or
Yes,
something
that's
like
right.
that?
It was very good too. Yeah, he killed.
Don't believe that Michael went to see
Wait a
it.
minute, Abe did away with these people with a hatchet
Yeah.
in the movie.
The rail splitter. Huh?
Yeah,
Now he was the zombie splitter.
That's right.
Yeah, takes
Now we
care of
got
that. So we're going to attempt again one of our dramatic readings. This is actually not such an old one. It sort of floated to the surface in the vault, and it's short and sweet. And we're going to do a choral reading of it. It dates to 2007 and is called Mythic. Mythic.
Action.
I'm tired of it.
What? Where?
I mean the war.
In Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah.
The president says we have to stay.
And to be patient.
These things take time, he says.
Well, it's about winning, right?
Yeah, just like Korea and Vietnam.
But it's taking longer.
Yeah, it's been since 9/11, 2001.
Yes. In real time, yeah. Twin Towers attack was like Pearl Harbor, huh?
Yeah, a wake-up call for World War III.
Then George wanted to get even.
But it was the Saudis and bin Laden.
America was isolationist then,
Well, Saddam did attack Kuwait.
during his dad's presidency.
And after a 3-day war, General Powell said, withdraw.
Well, we'd smashed the Iraq's army,
Arab countries had helped, you remember, with troops and money.
as did NATO and the UN.
And Dad's tactful diplomacy helped as well.
In 2003, at the UN, Secretary of State Powell said Saddam had WMDs.
Yeah, meaning gas and bacterial war equipment.
But no nukes, maybe some hidden ones.
You know they were never found.
It was a run-up.
There was Valerie Flame and husband.
Why bring that up?
Well, so after all this shock and awe, we'd won again.
Another victory over Iraq,
Mission accomplished.
at least on a carrier deck.
And again, Powell, now Secretary of State, said we're leaving.
But George wanted a Muslim democracy there,
So he sent over Paul Bremer.
who disbanded the Iraqi army and the police.
Yeah, that was smart. Triggered countrywide looting.
But we had the elections later for a new parliament.
And we gave billions to rebuild Iraq's infrastructure.
Bridges, roads, water, electricity, sewage, schools.
And it was mostly wasted by corruption and incompetence.
But don't forget private contractors.
That's what I said, corruption and incompetence, like Blackwater Security for the State Department.
Easy way to make $1 million. What a colossal mess.
And it's getting worse.
But the generals can see improvement.
Yeah, since the surge,
Aren't we training a new army and police like
the
now?
Shiites and Sunnis already had militias.
And weapons from Saddam's abandoned stockpiles.
Even the vice president said we should be patient.
But thousands of our dead and maimed soldiers.
How about his domestic agenda, though?
Mostly Bush has been trying to pay for the war.
Still, he was able to cut taxes for the rich.
Yeah, so recruiting a new soldiers is getting more difficult.
Oh, I don't know, that $20,000 bonus helps.
Well, New York City wants to do that for successful teachers.
What? Merit pay?
Yeah.
It'll never work.
It's different with the military.
You know, the evangelicals backed George in 2004.
Democrats won a slim victory in 2006.
Yeah, but not enough to override George's vetoes.
And meanwhile, our popularity has dropped.
Yeah, just like our dollar.
Cost of a barrel of oil, $100 then.
Which will do wonders for the cost of heating oil and gas.
It's going to be an expensive winter for consumers, I'd say.
But nevertheless, I still believe we'll defeat the Muslim terrorists.
Well, there you are. But Abu Ghraib and waterboarding don't help.
Bad things happen in wars.
So much violence on both sides.
And we still haven't caught bin Laden.
Well, we're not suicide bombers or fanatics.
But how can we leave behind such a weak government?
Syria and Iran are hoping we go.
Well, unfortunately, we're just going to have to stay a bit longer.
To prepare the Iraqis for our withdrawal.
Sometime after 2008.
That's
or
what the
12
yeah.
or 16.
You get it. And that's what the president candidates will be debating, I hope.
Well, we're doing it with an all-volunteer fighting force.
And we've asked it to do too much, if you ask
We
me.
probably needed a much larger military presence.
Well, a lot of problems to solve there.
Well, the next election will help.
A big voter turnout will make a difference.
And real issues will be argued.
And honest answers will help us decide.
Mike, I think you're being a little optimistic.
Blackout.
All right. All those things that didn't happen.
All this, you got it. And you know, aging lifeguards, they're in their 70s, a lot of them in New York City on the beaches there.
Lifeguards in their 70s?
Right, and one was in their 80s. I thought it was
What's
pretty
their
nice.
job? Putting toe tags on the people that they can't save?
Toe tags. Sounds, these are real, these guys love the job. They give up their work that they do all year long to
We
spend it
did a
at the
really
beach.
good play some years ago about aging lifeguards
That's
at
right.
the
I was
beach.
thinking of that when I was reading this piece.
It was a
in the
good
paper.
play. Unfortunately, I mean, tragically, they could have used some lifeguards out in Arizona the other day.
With that flash flood.
Flash flood. I still am not quite clear what happened there. The first thing I see on the news is somebody taking pictures of the flash flood with their cell phone, and the next thing I hear is that, what was it, 7 or 9 members of the family had disappeared.
Yeah. Terrible, yeah. Yeah, really.
And on the other hand, we had some young man drown in Walden Pond the other day.
That's right.
Why are people drowning so much? Do people
Because
don't know how to swim?
That's a big part
I mean,
of it.
I don't want
I'd
to
say.
I know nothing about the person, the last couple of people who drowned. We've had 3 or 4 in the last few weeks. But do you think they possibly could have been impaired?
Well, what? Okay, possible. It's a hard one to. I'd say they just didn't swim well, or maybe they were under the influence of something.
Well, I'm sort of wondering.
Yeah, when you
I'm
say
sort of wondering
impaired,
that.
yeah. Well, I can't answer that, but I know Hello Dolly's doing well with Bette Midler,
And Bette Midler's doing well with Hello Dolly.
and she won that Tony for that performance.
And it's it's starting to rival Hamilton.
Yeah.
At the
But the tough nurses strike ended finally.
well, the lockout ended. The strike ended after one day. The lockout ended today.
And about 15.
But they haven't started talking again. Interestingly
They
enough,
waiting for the mediators to come, federal, state.
have they agreed to mediators?
Yeah, well, we don't. Yes, it sounds like they have. I think they could do a deal.
I didn't hear anything about that.
I heard it cost $7 million for the hospital.
What, for the
strike.
replacements?
The replacements. But listen,
I guess $7 million doesn't go that far over a year, or maybe they could have offered some raises. But I must say that the reporting these days, either I'm not digging it out enough, or the reporting these days isn't as informative as I remember it being. But I thought I heard something flashing by me. Everything goes too quick these days. Saying that Tufts paid less than all the other hospitals in town.
10% less.
Was that it?
That was the number. Yeah, 10%. They
so
said they couldn't afford it.
I don't understand that. On the other hand, is there a glut of nurses or something at the moment?
I don't think so.
Because why don't the nurses just go to the hospitals that pay more and leave Tufts with their thumb in their mouth?
Well, you do what you like,
If you like it, then you're happy.
Yes.
And if you're happy, you
don't
shouldn't be on strike.
Well, there you go. But of course, we could be wrong about all this. Okay.
It's possible, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that if every other hospital is paying more, and maybe what's changed is I remember for years, nurses was in such demand. It was a job that if you were a qualified nurse, you could pick up and move anywhere in the United States and go to work immediately.
I still believe that, just what you said.
But if there's a shortage of nurses and they're underpaying, why don't they have a crisis of nurses? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, there you are. And in Venezuela, voting to limit the President Maduro's power, the people are protesting the shortages in the country, and they're terrible. They're endless.
Who's voting to reduce his power?
The people there, and they're having a chance to vote on
they're having a referendum or something?
on this. And
well, maybe perhaps they should do what their neighbors in Brazil did.
Yes, throw
Send
Lula
Lula in prison
for 10 years. Not fair. A lot of them have got away with it, but they say they're going to get to them. I see a lot of stuff about Henry Thoreau.
Well, I hope that our president gets at least 10 years.
Well, that's something to be considered.
Minimum.
Yes, okay. But maybe he'd meet that guy that used to be the governor of Illinois.
Blagojevich, your friend Blagojevich.
Okay.
Well, if we're reaching back to your friend Blagojevich, we should bring up the other topic that was perennial with you all the time, usually coming out of left field, and it was...
That's right. What? Oh yeah, the gambling casinos. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, we haven't mentioned it for so long. I lost it. If they ever finish them so that they open, maybe we'll cut down on.
Well, the thing was, you were remarking on the fact that nobody ever mentions them anymore.
No, never. Okay.
You know, we're not sure where they stand, whether they're actually building anything, but this is the year that they were meant to be opening. I'm still offended by the fact that this sorry excuse for a gaming commission that we owe to Deval Patrick does nothing about our little slots parlor promoting itself as a casino all the time.
And with horses too still down. You know, I saw in the paper that Suffolk Downs is opening up again.
Oh yeah, once threatening to close didn't get them what they wanted. They closed for a little while. They thought that was going to be the cataclysmic event. And what they discovered was outside of their own paddock, nobody cared.
But there's a tax that pays for all this stuff that they're going to do. A special tax that you and I have to pay. That goes to the
Right, to keep the horse industry
running
going.
and the guys who own them happy.
And I've always thought an industry that needed public support to keep going was highly questionable.
And Iran is jailing Americans. What do you think of that? Spies? We were talking about that.
Well, it's very troubling, except for the fact that there's always the possibility it's true.
It's true, yeah. You brought that up to me. Okay.
So that,
the nuclear treaty review that came up. Okay. Are we close to? No, we still got
we got a couple of minutes here.
Okay.
Got a couple of minutes.
Well, I was going to talk about Thoreau and John Muir and Teddy Roosevelt and JFK.
Thoreau, his 200th birthday was in the middle of the week, and there was some blogger who just ripped Thoreau from top to bottom, said he didn't know anything about nature, he didn't know anything about animals, he was a lousy lover, he couldn't hold a job. I don't know what was wrong with this guy. One of the things you don't know about Henry David Thoreau, two of them. He entered Harvard at 16,
right.
Graduated in 4 years, and while he really was a hippie, in his time, he lived exactly the way he wanted to and nobody's expectations. He did invent the graphite clay mix that to this day is still pencil lead.
Pencils. Okay.
So he
that was something, you know.
He did things. He was also a fully qualified surveyor, you know. But it was so funny. This guy absolutely insisted that. Well, he didn't actually live in the wilderness. He lived on the edge of town in a cabin. I would have liked to have seen this blogger living in, 1840 Walden Pond all by himself.
And something that we haven't talked about much is Secretary Shulkin, who's the Secretary of the Veterans Administration. What did he do? He pulled two people off their jobs. He dumped them. Two people who were high up in New Hampshire, in Manchester, New Hampshire, in this hospital.
They probably wanted to give something to veterans.
Well, actually, turns out that there were a lot of flies in the operating room. I'm not joking, and things of that nature.
Were there any in the ointment?
Anyways, the doctors all agreed with this, by the way.
Okay, so maybe this guy's okay.
He is, that's what and the Muslims...
And did the chancellor appoint him?
The chancellor is there. Which chancellor are we talking about now? Trump. He's busy. He's busy in France. He's busy with Russians. He's really a lot
making
going on.
Insulting comments to the wives of other world leaders.
Terrible.
All right, I think it's time.
Yeah. What happened?
I don't know.
Something happened, huh? Something.
Acapella.
All right.
Good night, Irene.
Good night.
Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams. But we won't hear anything because we've all been deafened by the overly loud keyboard here. We will see you next week. Hopefully we will all be here present at the time.
And it's going to be...
Good night and good luck to everyone from the Fun Show here at Big TV.
And heat and rain and humidity stuff. That's what we're going to face.
Heat and rain and humidity.
Right.
Well, if you add rain to heat, you get humidity.
Humidity, very good.
That's the formula.